Hello my beautiful customers, we thought we'd finally get round to putting a video together to show you how to restrain everybody. Apologies, it's not going to be production quality this video. We've not rehearsed it, although we're already on take 2 I have to say. So it's not going to be production quality, but and there may be stops and starts in it, but the main thing is that your precious loved ones, precious cargo are secured safely in the vehicle. So without any more ado, the first safety thing we want to make sure is that your chairs are crash tested, okay? Now to know if they're crash tested, there's a little snap hook symbol down there. There's 4 on there, there's 2 in the front at the securing points and 2 in the back. These are obviously the rear ones. If you're in any doubt, folks, just give me a call and we'll take you through it. If it's not crash tested, the crash tested ones are actually not too expensive. The other thing I'm going to show you just now while outside the vehicle, which will be to do with getting the seat belt on, it's probably easier to show you this outside the vehicle when we're talking about wheelchairs, is that you'll notice this particular wheelchair has got a gap there between the back and the arm, and that will really come into play. That's a great thing when you're putting the seat belt on, right? Because the seat belt, you want to go over Graham, my beautiful assistant here, over Graham and hugging Graham rather than over these arms, right? Some of the chairs you get, even the crash test ones, crazy, like are welded there and you can't do that. I would advise you, if that's the case, to get another one because the seat belt's not going to go in particularly well. Again, any doubt, just give me a shout. Okay, so now getting Graham into the vehicle. First thing you do is come up to the end of the ramp here and then apply the brakes. Now, if you're used to it and you're not in a slope, you don't need to apply the brakes, but for me, health and safety, you should technically be applying the brakes every single time, but we're not in a slope here. Just use your common sense. Graham's not going anywhere, right? So, but you would normally have your brakes on. So that's the first thing you do. You can do all this outside the vehicle, you don't need to do it inside the vehicle. The next thing you want to do is, there's 2 restraints up there. Ignore the middle bit, that's the winch, which we'll show you that in a minute. It's the 2 silver boxes. It'll be something like that we're using to restrain the vehicle. So what you need to do is release these straps, and it's a little button there, the little red light. Now in some vehicles, if the battery's got low, that won't work. You might have to start the car or have the ignition on to be able to bring these straps out. If the battery's fully charged, that's usually not an issue, but if the car's been sitting for a while, you may have to do that. Talking about batteries, that little LED that we just showed you, if you leave that on and leave the car for a week or 2, you go on holiday, that will drain the battery. So please guys, remember that, because I've had customers phone me up saying, you sold me a dud battery. I said, did you leave the wee red light on? Yeah, so it's that will kill the battery within a couple of weeks. So we've got the 2 front restraints released. We'll go up and fish them out. Now, before I go any further, the good thing is you don't need to go and fish these out every time. What I do when I'm finished getting my son in, I'll do that, and I've usually got, in this vehicle there isn't any, but usually you can have a wee hook or something, or even a cable tie, and they can live here, so you're not having to go up and fish them out every time. But for this video I wanted to show you where they were right at the front. So you fish these out, and then you attach them to the vehicle. So, sorry, to the wheelchair. So these are the restraining points there on this chair. Okay, that's one. And then that's on the front there. The rear ones go on once you're in the position. Now at this point, these are going to run loose. So what we now do is switch this switch off that you saw a moment ago. And that means as we go up the ramp, it'll catch. I'll show you when we're going up. So a good little tip when you're coming up here is, if Brian comes round, I'll show you this. On a lot of these chairs there's a little bit you can put your foot, because getting over that lip there can be a bit tricky. So if you just like having a buggy for a child as well, you put your foot in that, get the weight off the front a wee bit, and that gets you started. Now because they switched that switch off, if I let go of Graham here, he's not actually going anywhere. So on the way in, it's great, you've got that security if you've switched it off. Unfortunately, when you're bringing the chair out, you've got to have it loose or it'll not come back, so you don't have that luxury, you've just got to be a bit more careful coming out. So we bring Graham up here, and it'll all be trial and error where you find the best place to put the chair, but it's all to do with where the seatbelt is really. Now, I've found this is actually my son's car that we're using today. So for this car, what we do is pull back until you feel these front straps doing their job, and then once you've done that, you apply the brakes. Now Graham's capable of doing the brakes there. I haven't said that I'll do it because, for instance, my son Rory can't use his arms, so I have to apply the brakes. So the brakes are now on, so he's not going anywhere. Now we're putting on the rear restraints. What a lot of people do is they get a little gardening mat or whatever so that you can go down on your knee and you're protecting your back. So we'll show you the seatbelt system in just a wee minute. So to get the, I see it's chucking it down now. So to get the rear restraints on, there's one of two ways you can do it. To release that, there's a little red lever. That means that runs freely now. What I tend to do is, instead of putting this on first and then doing that, I actually put it on like so. So that's one on, and it's just sliding and clicking. Okay, and then the other one, I'll show you what these extra attachments have in the next little video. That's for the seatbelt, and again, but I'll show you how you can do it the other way. You can do it like that, slide it on, press the red lever, and up you go. Now that's twisted, you don't want that, so what you want to do is untwist it. That's better. The least twist you have, the better. And then up we go, and that's it. And then you tighten these. Now this is a very important point which a lot of my customers when they've been to other places haven't been shown this. We can get this as tight as we can, but because the brakes are on, the chair's not coming back quite as far as we'd want it to. So if, Graham, can you take the brakes off please? You'll see what I mean when we do this. So the brakes are now off. That allows this to come back further. See how it's just coming back that wee bit more? And you really want to apply as much force as you can. Other people tell you, oh, when you're driving along you don't even have to do this bit, it'll self-tighten. You want this as tight as possible, and I'll show you why in a little minute. Tight as you can possibly get, right? And you can see that's solid. Now, if Brian zooms in, the reason I want these as tight as possible is that's actually an open-ended hook. So in an accident, I'm sure you're all aware there's big G-forces at play. If this isn't super tight, you run the risk of that hook actually coming off. So that's why you want these to be as tight as possible. So once you've tightened these up, you can put the brakes back on, Graham. And that's the seatbelt in place. So we'll stop the video now and we'll move on to the seatbelt in a minute.